Hi, so we're Team Piqio. My name is Owen. This is Annika. This is Janthan. This is Wasir, and this is Philip. So websites changes all the time. Some website changes, every hour. Certain website may take days to change. Regardless, people would like to know when websites change. So, for example, let's say you're an avid online shopper. You will be interested in knowing when the prices of an item drops, or when something goes on sale, or when a discount happens. Another example would be if you're someone who likes to watch TV, a fan of a certain comic book, you can go on websites you will be interested in when a website releases new chapters of your comic or when new episodes of your favorite TV show comes out. Or let's say you're a business owner. In that case, you might be interested in when people leave reviews on your site, when people comment on your business, or you might be interested in how your competition is doing. So there are existing ways you can do to check for these changes. The most obvious way is to manually go on the website yourself and refresh, check back every few days to see if stuff changes. Maybe tomorrow it changes, maybe it didn't. But this is not a good way to approach this because it's not really that practical. It's a lot of work on the user. It's not a great way. Another approach will be to use certain sites have built-in alerts. So this is good for the sites that do have it, but many sites don't have built-in alerts. And the sites that do have built-in alerts, many of them are not customizable. They will email you when stuff changes, but you can't tell them to email you when stuff changes to a certain value. A third option is to run a script locally. This is a great way to do this, but the problem with this is that you need to write the script, and not many people know how to do that. But what you can do instead is to use Piqio. All you have to do is pick a website. In this example, we want to monitor Amazon for the price of a shoe, which is currently unavailable. All you have to do is go to Piqio, enter the website. We will load up a site for you. You click on the stuff you want us to monitor. In this case, it's the word currently unavailable. And that's all you have to do. You can have to relax, go do something else. And when that changes, we'll send you an email. And then you can go to Amazon and you can buy those sneakers. So what are the main features of Piqio? Like I mentioned before, our number one feature is email notifications. This means that whenever something changes on a website, we'll send you an email notification. So you no longer have to manually go on sites every few days to check if it changes. Another feature we offer is customized alerts. So instead of just having us email you every time something changes, you can customize your alerts to, for example, if you're looking for the price of, when price of something drops, you can customize your alerts so that we only email you when the price drops below a certain number. Like I mentioned before, a lot of sites don't have a built-in email alert system, but Piqio works on those sites as well. Piqio works on pretty much every site that's public, and you can monitor pretty much every element on the website that you can see. Another feature offered by Piqio is historical trends. So Piqio stores the last 800 values that we observed and monitored since you created the alert. So you can log on to Piqio's dashboard and see all the previous changes and see all the trends. So I want to talk about some of our competitors. So first, I want to mention Page Monitor. Page Monitor is one of the most popular page monitoring tools, and they do have things different from what we're doing. One of the big major differences is that Piqio does polling from the server side, and Page Monitor does polling from the client side. And neither one is better than the other one. They each have their own advantages and disadvantages. So the advantages of Page Monitor is that since it's local polling, they can do password protected sites. For example, I used to use this extension to monitor when my marks changes on Learn. But this is not something Piqio can do because Piqio doesn't work on password protected site. But an advantage that Piqio have is that since we're polling from the server, you don't need to have your computer running in order to monitor changes. For example, if you're using Page Monitor and you go to sleep and you close your computer and something changes while you go to sleep, you won't be notified. So another competitor we have is called Distill. Distill is similar to Piqio in the sense that the server does all the polling, but the problem I have with Distill is that it's not very reliable. When I try Distill, Amazon doesn't work, Steam doesn't work when I try to monitor for prices of games. And these are deal breakers for some people who are mainly using it for shopping purposes. Another problem I noticed with Distill is that it's very hard to navigate in terms of the user experience. When you're creating a new alert, there's so many knobs to turn, there's so many stuff you have to do before you can create an alert that most new users who are not technical will not even be able to create an alert. So next, we'll talk about the first version of Piqio.
So in order to test out our idea, we launched it to a subset of users who gave us some valuable feedback that we could use in our next launch of Piqio. So let's go over the main features that we had in our first version. So the first thing we had was a Chrome extension. So essentially, the user has to go to the website they want to monitor, use our Chrome extension to select the element that they want to monitor, which would then direct them to our website. The other thing we had was emails. So when the value that we're monitoring changes, we want to be notified by email. And we can do that using Piqio. So let's go over the architecture of our first launch. So the user has to first download the Chrome extension that we use to monitor the website. And then the Chrome extension, once the user selects the element they want to monitor using the Chrome extension, it directs them to our website. Once the user creates the alert on our website, the alert is then directed to our server. And then the server has to repeatedly poll the internet to get the updated value of the element that the user is monitoring. And then we stored this information that we get from the internet in our database. And when the condition that the user is monitoring for is satisfied, we then email the user. So let's go over some of the marketing strategies we used.
So after we created our first MVP, the thing that we needed to focus on was creating marketing, getting users. How do we actually get feedback in order to iterate on our design? So the major two methods that we used for user acquisition in our first version was Facebook ads and Reddit posts. So with Facebook ads, from our initial research, we believed that the major two audiences that we should be reaching out to is online shoppers and people that like productivity tools. When it came to our Reddit communities, we want to be critiqued on designs, our idea, our user flow, get feedback. So we reached out to certain communities such as r/side projects, r/design critiques, and r/beta testers. And once we reached out to these communities, we got a lot of results. And so after our initial launch, we got 36 users. And with these 36 users, they gave us a lot of useful information. The first thing that they revealed was that the type of users and the things they wanted to use our app for extends far much more than just an online shopper. We found out that a lot of our market wanted to monitor concert tickets, monitor whether concert tickets were available, the price of them. There were a lot of music lovers, theater enthusiasts. The second thing that we realized is that a lot of our users are non-Chrome users. And so, as Anaga described in the beginning, we used Chrome extension in order to get the CSS selector to select the element. So that means 40% of our users are unable to use our app because they can't use a part of our app. The second thing we realized is that a huge portion of our audience comes from mobile. And we didn't really put a huge emphasis on the mobile design and mobile compatibility. The major two feedbacks that we got from users is one, that the ramp-up process to create an alert was a little difficult, and they were a little confused on how to exactly create an alert. And the second was that the Chrome extension didn't always select something that the server accepted. So let's take a little deeper look into the data that we actually got. When it comes to major groups, we expected technology and shoppers. But as you can see, a huge percentage, the second, the third, and the fourth, all comes from media and entertainment. And when we reached out to them, a common thing that they wanted to do is concert tickets and movie tickets and vice versa. And other cases. And the second thing we can look at is breakdown of browser usage. So yes, Chrome is our major use case, but 40% of our users are coming from external sources, external browsers. And all of these people are unable to have access to our Chrome extension. And the third thing, as we mentioned before, was devices. A lot of our users are coming from mobile, and we really didn't emphasize mobile support in our initial launch. So after getting all of these results, we broke these results down into three major problems that we need to address. One is the Chrome extension. The Chrome extension needs to be changed. We need to come up with some way to allow people to select CSS selectors and not tie them to a specific browser. The second thing we realized is that we did a little bit of stress testing after we released our initial app, and we found out that there is a cap at approximately 900 alerts per server. So let's say each user creates an average of 3 alerts, and we have 300 users. That means that that's the cap at what we can support. This is not scalable. And the third thing that we need to address is mobile compatibility. And that's when we went to version 2 of our app.
So for version 2, we took into account all of the different feedback and observations we saw, and we essentially did a huge redesign. The redesign was focused on the HTML component known as iframe. So why did we choose iframe? Why move away from the Chrome extension? So the iframe provides us a few major wins. So first of all, the iframe is put into our website, and the user can now enter any website from within our website and visit it. This means that they are no longer tied up to the Chrome ecosystem. A user on Safari will be able to use it just as well as a user from Chrome. It's also CSS selector friendly. So initially what we realized was our server was seeing a different HTML than what's seen on the browser. A user's Chrome extension that they have going on can interrupt and add and remove stuff from the DOM. Using the iframe, we fetch the HTML from our server and feed it into the iframe. Therefore, what the user sees is exactly what the server sees. And lastly, the user will have a much better experience using the entire app. The user does not have to leave and go download a Chrome extension, and all of their alert creation can be done from our website. We also increased our mobile compatibility. Initially, you can see that although we were rendering the pages, the functionality was missing, and also the rendering was very off. In the second picture, you can see that our sidebar is cut off. So after we added support for mobile compatibility, we not only render the components properly, but also allow all of our features to be fully functional on the mobile devices. Another feedback that we got was our website was hard to use. So we took 2 approaches to fix this. One was before they even sign in, they're greeted with a tutorial video. This is a brief introduction to our feature set and walks the user through all of the different capabilities that our product gives them. On top of that, they had the user creation process was flipped. The user no longer needed to create an account before creating an alert. They can test out our site. They can feel completely comfortable knowing that we do not have a single piece of information while they test out our features. And after they create their first alert, we take the user creation process and do it in the background and contact Google to get their user information. Finally, we also had our servers were capped at 900 alerts. So what we ended up doing was we had a load balancer, and we had a variable number of hosts. Each host will contact the internet, and essentially the load balancer would distribute the load across all the hosts. This allowed us to dynamically scale up and scale down. So what is our app built on? It's built on JavaScript. Our backend is Node.js. Our front end is React.js. And our polling network is written in Go. So now let's look at the architecture with the new changes. As you can see, the Chrome extension is gone from the architecture. The user enters Piqio and goes through the entire flow just by entering information into the iframe. Upon entering a URL, the server is contacted, and we fetch the HTML. After the user selects an element, we show a preview. We contact the server again, and we ask, what do you see? The server tells the user exactly what it sees. On top of that, we removed the fact that our server that was holding the user information was doing the polling. We extracted that out into a distributed host network. This has a single load balancer with a variable number of hosts. As you can see, depending on the load we have, we can easily spin up very lightweight hosts that expose two endpoints, fetch HTML and get selector. Those are in charge of contacting the internet. Now with all these changes, let's talk about how we targeted our final user group.
So now that we made all the changes to our app after the initial feedback we got, we also decided to revise our marketing strategy. So the purpose of our first launch was to get feedback. We want as much feedback as possible. We advertised to a beta tester and people who are willing to give us feedback. But for our second launch, our main goal is just to get as much user as possible. So we ran a lot more ads, and we ran a lot more specific ads. So from the first launch, we got more specific information about exactly what our targeted audience was. So instead of just online shopper, we narrowed it down to specific people who loves movie, who might be shopping for a concert ticket, people who might who are interested in fashion, who might be interested in shopping for makeup. So from doing all that, our final launch, we were able to get 200 plus users, and amongst all of them, they created 500 plus alerts. And this was due to the fact that we had mobile compatibility, so we're capturing a large portion of users who were unable to use our app before. People who are now on Safari and Firefox can now use our app. And now that we have more targeted ads, we're able to reach people who are more likely to use our app. So we did 2 launches. First launch, we got a lot of feedback. And the second launch, we also got a lot of feedback. And here's the next step that Piqio will take in the future to implement the feedback we got from our second launch. First thing is local polling. So what this allows us to do is access password-protected sites. So right now, Piqio can only access public sites. And there are definitely use cases where you can, where it's better if you have access to password-protected sites. So this is something we want to implement in the future. Also, region-based monitoring. So right now, most of our users are in US and North America, and all the sites we're polling from are basically all in the US. And this is because different sites will appear differently based on which region you're accessing from. So we decided to target our ad campaign in those regions. In the future, we might want to set up infrastructures in other regions so those users can also use our app. One thing that was requested a lot from our users and people we talk to is exposing our REST API so third-party developer can hook up their applications to our services. So in summary, Piqio is a web monitoring tool that will notify you when websites change. We did an initial launch where we got a lot of great feedback, and we implemented those feedback and did a more successful second launch. And we still have a lot more features that we want to implement in the future. Thank you for listening.